The last topic we'll take a look at for compound interest is effective annual yield. Effective annual yield converts compound interest to an equivalent simple interest rate. So in example 5, we want to compute the effective annual yield for an account with an annual interest rate of 5.25% using this given formula for annual yield. I already have this set up in Desmo, so we'll evaluate y of 0.0525 with n equals 1 compounding period for annually compounded interest. And what we see is that that interest rate is 5.25%. So with one compounding period, our annual interest rate of 5.25% compounded annually is equivalent to a simple interest rate of 5.25%. Let me just update this column. This should say effective annual yield. And it makes sense for those two values to be exactly equal, because if we look at interest being compounded annually, or we look at simple interest after a year, we're really completing the same calculation. The formulas are a little bit different, but within a single year, interest compounded annually is calculated and applied to the principal once. With simple interest, interest would be calculated and applied once. So this formula, evaluating this formula with one compounding period, really doesn't give us a lot of information since those two values will always be equal. So what will give us some information is if we start updating that number of compounding periods to 2, now we have a simple interest rate of 5.32%. And we can update that to quarterly, monthly, and daily to see how that effective annual yield continues to increase. Specifically for semi-annually compounded interest, we saw an effective annual yield of 5.32%. So now our compound interest rate, which hasn't changed, but is being compounded twice a year, has the same annual yield or the same interest applied as a simple interest loan or a simple interest investment with 5.32% interest. If we up this to quarterly, that increases to 5.35%. If we look at compounding monthly, that changes to 5.38%. And daily, with 365 compounding periods, we get an effective annual yield of 5.39%. So again, what we're saying is this interest rate, this compound interest rate of 5.25%, gives us the same yield as a simple interest loan with 5.39%. if we're compounding daily. So that's an increase of 0.14% interest applied to our principal over the course of 1 year.